Hello and welcome back to another episode of the It's Not Orange podcast. We can finally celebrate 3 points at Bloomfield Road after it felt like a lifetime since the Huddersfield game where we picked up a victory. A late Jordan Brown strike enabled Blackpool to secure all 3 points and still see themselves in the relegation zone. But the most important thing is we got that victory. We left it very late and the game wasn't pretty at times, but a much better second half meant that Steve Bruce gained 3 points over high-flying Barnsley. And we're going to look through that game. Probably try not to talk about the first half too much. The second half more so, of course, with our two panellists this evening. And first and foremost, let me introduce you to a debutant on the podcast, and that is Peter. How are you doing, my friend?
Good evening, Tom. I'm good, thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, good to have you on, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Watched the game again today, which was quite hard.
Was that a form of punishment or something?
Yeah, just to remind myself of how woeful we were in the first half.
Yeah, no, but it was a much better second half, and we'll talk all things this game. With Hoggy, who I just introduced at a very unfortunate time. How are you, mate?
I'm better now. I've cleared my throat. And I'm good. Very good. Thank you, Tom. Back-to-back wins, 6 goals scored, none conceded in 2 games. Title charge starts now, doesn't it? Nothing else to be said, really.
Well, that was about 40 seconds ago. Hoggy was on a rampage, and it wasn't as positive as that. But we'll get into all things. Barnsley, we've probably got polar opinions tonight, which is good. So get your comments in the chat, of course, as usual. Let us know your thoughts and feelings on the game, and we can discuss them as time goes on. But good evening, Mike. As always, buddy, hope you are well. Craig, thank you for tuning in, and the others in the chat as well. We'll get to your comments as and when they come in. But gents, it was 3 points, but the first half was quite difficult. But as usual, Hoggy, we will quickly go through the lineup. If I just get my screen up. There we go. I'll start with you, Hoggy, because we've done the preview show and what we potentially would have wanted. And it probably wasn't the same as most fans wanted after the Barrow game. Obviously, seeing Ravazoli not start in goal and Horsfall missing out. But it was the ever-present Peacock Farrell and Imre and Coulson make up the wing-back positions. We might have thought we've seen Ashworth after the Barrow game. Casey and Heckway started at centre-back, Banks and Bowler, who we did want as of wingers, of course, with Honeyman and Morgan. With Fletcher and Ennis make it up front too. I'll start with the question, I suppose. One of the 3 midfielders that we usually start, we kind of discussed this game that if Brown and Honeyman played together, they'd probably both try and play mop-up, and maybe Bruce has noticed that because Honeyman allowed Morgan to do a bit more attacking or vice versa, whoever started, and Brown obviously latterly coming on and making a difference to the game. But what was your thoughts on the lineup away from probably the middle 2? Were you upset, disappointed, or did you think it was still good enough to win the game?
Disappointed in respect of what I was hoping we'd see in terms of the changes. But it's Steve Bruce, isn't it? And he's made no bones about how he's going to play. It's going to be 4-4-2, which is fine. He did at least stop putting square pegs in round holes, which again positive. He made some brave decisions, again dropping Brown as you alluded to, and more so at centre half. Really, I think the biggest shock out of that was probably starting Ekwe at centre half ahead of Horsfall. I think quite a few people might have expected him to come in, but he stuck with him, and black and white of it is, we kept a clean sheet and got 3 points. So Steve Bruce will be probably feeling very chuffed with himself. And of course, Fletch got his goal in midweek, and Bruce gave him a chance. And yeah, left Taylor on the bench, and we somehow managed to grind out and find 3 points.
There's the negativity.
I'm trying not to be, but we're laughing saying they dropped Brown again. He's kept, as far as I'm concerned, he's kept him in a job with the last kick of the game. We'll dissect all that throughout the evening, I'm sure.
Of course we will. Pete, Mike said, I really thought we would see Ashworth and Horsfall against Barnsley. Now, do you think it was a case of he's just come back from a long-term injury or longish term in terms of the season, starting missing all of it with Horsfall, and he went to a back two that he kind of knew I would say works in inverted commas, but they know each other because they've been playing for a while. Do you think it's the fact that 90 minutes he didn't want to risk him to start a game, or did you think he just picked a Heckway over Horsfall because he thought it was the right decision? Of course.
No, I'm not sure that Horsfall's ready yet. To be honest with you, not fully fit, is he? So I think we all wanted to see Horsfall play, but to be fair to Heckway, he had a really good game. Probably the best game he's played for us, to be fair. And Casey did well as well. I don't think the back four were the issue. I don't like 4-4-2. I think we're overrunning midfield, and we were overrunning midfield for sure in the first half. Not so bad in the second half for some reason, but the team for me, I'm not sure Bowler should have started yet. He looked pretty leggy to me still. We'll talk about that later as well, about him, I think, after we discussed that earlier. But the team was okay. I mean, you've got to play Imre and Coulson. You've got that back four, apart from Horsfall, picks itself really at the moment. The midfield, you've got to pick two of the four, haven't you? They were probably the two most attacking players at home. And I think Fletch probably deserved his start, although, it's hard to know. I like Taylor, but I like Fletch as well. So, and I thought Ennis ran himself into the ground, but I'm not sure he played particularly well alongside Fletch.
Yeah, I think Hoggy made some good points to me when we're discussing the game on Saturday night. So we'll come on to a couple of points that he made as well. But Hoggy, I hate to bang the drum, I was going to say, but there would be poor taste in your company, eh? I hate to say it, but the slow start, it was, the first 5-10 minutes, it was okay, but the momentum kind of stuck with Barnsley throughout that first half. And there was a theme of, I put slow start and careless balls in there, I think, between Peacock, Farrell, Coulson, most definitely in the first half, Casey a few times, Banks with careless passes. We allowed Barnsley time to settle in on the game, and I expect after such a ropey start in the league and playing high-flying Barnsley, it was always going to be the case we would probably feel each other out and try to get our foothold in the game, but we looked as cautious as we possibly could be about Barnsley scoring a couple of goals in that first half.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you pointed out we started actually okay for the first couple of minutes. I think
agreed,
Banks,
yeah, we did.
Banks cut inside, had a shot blocked, and from that corner, I think we had a bit of a free header that he probably should have done better with, to be quite honest.
Yeah, from the corner.
Yeah, so you started to think actually maybe Bruce has given them a rocket up the backside, and it's not going to be the low sit back standoff 4-4-2, but it then couldn't have manifested any more into a repeat effectively of the first half against Bolton, minus us somehow scoring, and we were just left chasing shadows. Morgan and Honeyman, we talked about it on the pod before, saying we thought Brown and Honeyman might be too similar and too deep and wanting to come and pick up the ball, but Morgan and Honeyman did the exact same. They just dropped in and sat on the toes of Iekwe and Casey. We couldn't get out. The amount of space Luca Connell and Kelly had done, I honestly think they played more passes to each other in the first half, combined more than we did as a whole team. It was ridiculous to watch, and you could see the passes coming a mile off. Going back to the lineup, Coulson was very lucky to start at left back. I think Bruce trusts him more than Ashworth. I think that's quite clear to see. I'm really struggling to find words for how it was Jekyll and Hyde. Let me make that clear. Second half, he was very good, but
the same against Barnsley, wasn't it? His first half, I think, against Huddersfield was really poor in terms of his intelligence of playing the ball out. And then the second half in Huddersfield, all I remember is being an absolute warrior at left back and really learning to defend. I think if he does one thing, i.e. attack, he becomes almost useless at left back. But if he doesn't attack as much and he focuses his game on his positioning, he almost becomes like a reliable defender. But he never does both in spades, does he?
No, absolutely not. Go on, Pete.
No, I think he did. He made that one really fantastic tackle in the first half that probably prevented a goal. Imre did the same bit later on as well in the first half. They were, because Peacock Farrell didn't. I don't think he had a save to make, did he, in the whole game that I can think of?
No.
And they were great tackles, but he made those two errors, didn't he, Coulson?
I mean, from my point, I don't so much mind misplacing a pass if it's the right pass. But when he when he squared up their striker again after receiving the ball back from Banks, it was like he was in utter shock that he'd received the ball back to feet and just didn't know what to do with it. So just turned and knocked an awful short back pass. My bigger annoyance, more than anything, was the amount of times he kept continuing to drift inside, which is a domino effect
Yeah.
of really bad defending across the back four, not just singling out Coulson here. Iekwe was doing his best Jay Spearing impression of just waving his arms at everyone else and moaning and blaming everyone else, leaving his man to drift wherever, despite the fact you had Morgan and Honeyman sat on the edge of the box. Their midfielders were walking through them, running in. So suddenly you've got Casey, who I'm glad you pointed out, he had a great game. Suddenly had three strikers to try and pick up, or a couple of midfielders as well. Was pulled all over the place, and Coulson kept just following and drifting inside, effectively playing centre half. So the right winger of Barnsley had the freedom of the pitch, and it went on for the whole half. It's quite laughable, really, that Barnsley didn't actually produce anything from it. Just as laughable as it was that we continued to do it and provide them with the opportunities. And again, I'd echo what you said, Pete, in the first half in terms of the fact that, yes, Ennis ran himself into the ground and Fletcher did okay. But you've got two strikers there, and in a 4-4-2, you've got to work together. And they were on different planets. They were not on the same wavelength at all first half.
We'll definitely come on to we'll definitely come on to that to talk about the shape of the team as well, for sure. But we've got a few comments in here, like a bit on your point. MB's right. 37-year-old Taylor McGoldrick spraying passes around Bloomfield Road in the first half. I think credit to him, to be fair. He still looks incredible for 37. He had energy in the tank come his substitution as well.
Gary Medine back.
No, please no. This might be your debut and your last podcast. So Morgan and Honeyman in the middle are two lightweight, very similar players. I'm going to hold my hands up. I actually want these two to start, but I think if they're going to start, one needs to do the dirty work and one needs to do the playing, and they both didn't get that memo, or Bruce obviously hadn't given that instruction as well. On the start of the season, Victor Walker is below par and not acceptable. Bruce's win rate is 40%, and that is not promotional playoff form. Evening, Kurt. I'm not there Saturday, so it's 100% Blackpool win. Maybe you're the problem. Is it me, or does it feel like Coulson has two men to deal with and he gets caught in between the two? Yeah, I think Hoggy has probably summed that up quite well. It's one of them things, isn't it, Kurt? Like Hoggy, we played this 4-4-2 system, but we kind of want to play the wing backs as a 5-3-2 or 3-5-2, don't we? So in a 4-4-2, you either need to be fluid in midfield and change the shape as you defend or attack. But one thing you can't do in a 4 is constantly change where you're going to stand in the position, because that back 4 / the goalie 5 is that reliance of the foundation on a 4-4-2, and what's in front of you does the painting while you do sort of the structure, if that makes sense. And with Coulson sort of changing position all the times, it puts Iekwe and Casey in all sorts of problems, because they don't know whether to come across or they don't know whether to stay where they are, and it leaves a bigger gap. So Ogbeta, as you said, their right back, our left back, had a man of the match performance in the first half. He didn't do too much in the second half, but ultimately with the stray passes and Keylor Dunn's shot that flew over the bar, which a man of his caliber, you'd expect it to go in. We got let off in that first half and we weren't at the races.
We didn't put a pass through to anyone, did we? There weren't any passes. I think they said on the commentary, they were just clearance. They were clearances, not passes, and they didn't go to anyone from the keeper right the way through the team. And the problem was, because the midfield 2 was so deep, the back 4 couldn't get the ball out because they couldn't pass to them because they were just too close to them. So, you've got to feel a bit sorry for Ennis and Fletcher, to be fair, because they had no one to feed them at all. Not in that first half.
Yeah, you're right. There was a huge 50-yard gap of the Bloomfield Road, just open space that just had Barnsley players sat in the middle of it doing what the hell they wanted. And you could see as well as the first half progressed, Bowler and Banks started to get more frustrated and started to drift inside, which in a 4-4-2 makes it even more ridiculous, because he suddenly got then like a little square of 4 midfielders all in on a tiny little area with Honeyman and Morgan sat in front of the back 2 centre halves. It was just a mess, like we say, and you can see Bruce on the sidelines saying, trying to get him to press, but everyone was doing their own version of that. And again, I'm going to go back to the 2 weeks on Squires Gate. It looked like they hadn't done anything that time, before the Northampton game, and then certainly the week after either. Everyone seemed to be on very much different hymn sheets. But as we progressed into the second half, credit where it's due, it changed and it did become more cohesive.
I wanted to talk about that, and I'll integrate your point about the strikers. I've named wherever I've aptly named it strikers playing solo. Kurt sort of said in the first half or in the podcast chat, Hoggy, that when we played as a team in that first half, dare I mention his name, Critchley 1.0. I'll take Lavery or whoever it was. They pressed from the front, then the midfield went, and then the defence kind of pushed up, and then the wingers obviously knew when to go, and Bowler scored that immense goal, and it all came from the fact that we played such an incredible side, but they didn't know how to cope with that, the shift in pressing, and obviously backing off when it was right. Bruce has maybe got a little bit last season, especially away from home, but they're not hard workers considering the videos at the start of the season, the time off the training ground, how passionate he is about fitness and defence. But he set them up first half, and you're right, they didn't know when to press as a team. And individuals like Ennis would press and Fletcher would press, but then the midfield didn't do absolutely anything at all. And the back four were just a mess, as we already spoke about. So I don't know where you think that comes from. I don't know if there's an instruction or I don't really get it. But it looked like they didn't want Bruce to be their manager in the first half.
Bruce was going mad on the sidelines trying to get them to go forward. So, he must have told them to do that. They just didn't do
what?
It. Go forward. Go, for the midfield to get to push up. They didn't press. We didn't press at all in the first half, did we?
No, not. It is baffling because, like you say, he's had the full week working with them, working on what he wanted them to do. The final words in the dressing room before they go out, they told them press as a unit, press them high, centre halves. And the Barnsley podcast himself said, we can get caught around at the back a little bit sometimes. But we just didn't. So to then watch him stand there for 45 minutes, yeah, fair enough. It must be frustrating for Bruce, but you've got a full backroom staff alongside you. Grab hold of the players, make them take responsibility, kick them up the arse, because you can't. We got away with it on Saturday. Let's be honest. We wasted 45 minutes of a football match, and we could have been dead and buried and out of sight, just like we could have done against Northampton. And obviously we're not seeing Bradford, but the table, doesn't tell lies. That could very much be game over on Saturday if we start with our traditional slow start.
Yeah, great.
Not too much to talk about in the first half, but Pete, sorry, I start with you. The second half started superbly. There was a flutter where Barnsley took the ball. I think Banks played a careless flick again. Actually, it started off that Cole nearly caught the flu when Banks flicked it to one of their strikers and they got in behind. But Casey dealt with it. Peacock Farrell rolls out to Casey, who passes it Imre, who makes a 70-yard run with Bowler obviously transitioning more to the centre, which we'll talk about in a second. But we will talk about that man Imre because we talked about against Northampton, but he had an even better game this side of it, and because he had the freedom of the right wing, more so, which we'll discuss in a second, maybe for tactical reasons, maybe for luck, but he started off in the exact tone we wanted to in that first half with winning the corner after just 46 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sorry. I thought we played much better. We were much the better team in the second half. To be fair, they didn't really create anything, and we started off really strongly. Like I say, that was a good chance. Was it Ennis it got through to?
No, sorry. The first half I just said we started the tone.
Sorry, the second half.
The second half. Sorry, it was no. It's just one of those ones where we started off and Imre or whoever spoke to the team clearly, because Imre started the first half just by bombing down a 70-yard run and winning a corner and sort of waving to the north saying, "Come on, let's go." And he in my opinion, a really weird tweet after the game, but raised in Blackpool, whatever it was a bit weird because we needed him more than ever, and he's the young man that really sort of started to dictate the play and made us come alive a little bit, I suppose.
He was our best player by a mile, wasn't he? So he deserved his man of the match. But the whole team sort of started to press. It was different. You could see the change. They'd obviously had a conversation at half time, and they were pushing. They were doing what they should have done in the first half. And we were a bit toothless again, because we'll talk about that again because of the service to the front two and how they were playing together. But we were so much better in the second half.
Yeah, Hoggy, as Pete's already mentioned, the press was there. I think Ennis wins the ball back early doors. Then Fletcher, he gets behind Luke O'Connell. He actually just pokes the ball away, and O'Connell falls to the floor, and it was never a foul. And Fletcher loses his head a little bit, but the front two pressed really well, and therefore I think Morgan started to get into the game a little bit more. There was an intelligent pass to the outside of his boot to Imre, who was making that run on the wing, and a couple other things. But the moment we had that press there and the cohesion, like you said, we started to look like the Blackpool that we really enjoy at Bloomfield Road, and one we've enjoyed over the years, of course, but one that's been lacking for many months between two managers.
I'd go further and say it's not just one we enjoy, it's one we expect. Look at the quality of players that are on the pitch. And with the greatest respect, the teams that are coming to Bloomfield Road, they should be getting that sort of in-your-face football. And you're going to have to come here and work bloody hard and know you put a shift in to get even 1 point, never mind 3 off us. Again, you can see it within the first 5 minutes. Like you say, Imre was, I can't think of a word that describes how good he actually was on Saturday. But if in the first 5 minutes you had Honeyman and Morgan, like you say, pressing up just outside their box, pushing Ennis and Fletcher right on their centre half, right on their keeper. I'd love to know how many times their keeper received a back pass from one of their centre half second half compared to first half. It tenfold increase without doubt because of the pressure we were all applying as a unit, and just little patterns of play as well. There's the speed, the tempo, the accuracy of the pass in the second half. It was much quicker. It was positive. We weren't trying to overcomplicate it, but we also had an option. We seemed to actually have an out ball and make the ball move across the pitch quicker rather than a 70-yard lofted ball over the top because there was no other real outlet, if you will. And just coming back a little bit to Imre and his performance, that's the standard. Okay, that's the standard you expect from I expect certainly from every single Blackpool player every time they go on the pitch. And performances like that and you saw it brings about increased performance levels from others around them. And that has to be the benchmark now. And I can't wait for Saturday. I know Kurt was joking saying he's not going with a win. You're playing top of the league, and they've just had a really difficult game midweek. Okay, so it probably does give us a little bit of an advantage. If you can't get up for that after that superb moment in the 98th minute on Saturday, and we can't start at 100 miles an hour in the face, then we've got big problems, and we're probably in for a hiding.
Yeah, that could be one of these games where if Bradford are on fire in the mood, it could be 3 before half time and 5 before the end if we're not on it. So we saw the likes of Exeter, what they could do to us when we're not at it. So Bradford are 10 times the team they are in terms of being, the quality that they have. So it's certainly a game we have to get on, and I'm looking forward to hearing from Johnny later about how good Bradford actually have been this season. Hoggy, I'll stay with you on the hour mark. A nice interchange in the middle. I think it was, I think Banks played it to Morgan. Morgan first time pass sprayed out to Imre, who played a beautiful, delicate ball in behind where Ennis latched onto it. Resulted in him trying to chip the keeper, but the defender done well to block it. And from the resultant cross, Fletcher's pulled back. I think definite penalty. A second later, Ennis goes down from the man that's down in the box, who was miraculously up to make the tackle. Wasn't a penalty, but again, that the 3-minute spell that occurred around that sort of area with Pepper in the box and getting the ball on the edge of it, etc., resulted in a beautiful bit of play with some decisiveness. Ennis maybe should have done better. Good block, but do you think it was a penalty on Fletch?
I mean, I screamed like mad. Like obviously, it was the most blatant penalty in the world at the time. I've not seen it back. It probably would have been harsh. But again, I was, more concerned how Lazarus rose from the floor to make the tackle after he was dead. But
and then went down again after.
Yeah, I'm still the off stand load, and not so funny now, is he? Didn't see him in the 98th minute anyway. But I think for that 5 minutes, I think that epitomised what Bruce wants from his team playing 4-4-2. We had nice little passes of play in the middle, got it out wide to Banks, to Bowler, and we put across the 6-yard box and the penalty spot some fantastic balls that really the strikers, the wingers have every right to be going mad at Fletch and Ennis for not getting on the end of them and just tapping them in.
I think it was like the 48th minute. Did you or do you remember? I'm a bit weird and remember like certain bits, but Imre's ball across the box, which I've never it's his best ball of the game,
yes.
but he whips it so fast, and Ennis is like between the 6-yard box and he just sort of stands there, and I was just like, oh my, if that goes in, like what an absolute incredible bit of football. But it just looks like a wicked cross, and it's forgotten. But they're the sort of balls that we've been begging, the sort of quality we're not used to.
That's it. And it's almost like I said that those moments of quality, those passes that were made, it's like we surprised ourselves. Like before, I said when Coulson got the ball back from a 1-2 from Banks in a tight position, it was like he was shocked, didn't expect it to happen. And some of those balls, absolutely. The Imre one was phenomenal, as was the Morgan one that you talked about, the 60, 70
The
yard.
outside of the boot.
It wasn't even lofted; it was drilled. He knew what he was doing. It was superb. And it's moments and passes like that as a fan you've got to cling on to and think, okay, if the players can start seeing that, yes, we can make these passes, let's start giving them having a bit of confidence, self-belief to pull them off more often. I am going to raise you though and say that I don't think the Imre pass was the best pass of the game. That goes to Peacock Farrell, and he put two
Dale Taylor.
absolute stunners on a play. I know he's, people are quick to jump on his back. I'll as part of the goalkeeper's unity, I'll happily defend him.
Mate, I was going to come on to that, but yeah, I appreciate.
I've got a different view on that.
The pass to Taylor in that.
It was
I
good.
don't know the second one. I might not remember the second one, but we'll just quickly talk about that in isolation because I know it was a bit later on in the game. But do you think Taylor was at fault for that, or do you think he should have opened up his body to let it run in, or do you think it was just sheer bad luck because he wasn't expecting such a good pass? I don't know.
I'm going to be really harsh and have a right go at Taylor because you've seen the ball coming for 70, 80 yards.
Yeah, I said he should have just let it run.
You knew where it was going. The best thing he did on Saturday was jump out the way for the goal. That was his most important moment. And if I'm Peacock Farrell, I'm following that pass 80 yards to go and give him a backhander because that pass was honestly
it was so unexpected as well, wasn't it? It was like, yeah.
But yeah, going back to the 5-minute spell and the wide men putting in superb crosses. Eventually, we'll start to get that right. And going back to the two strikers saying they're on different planets again, it's where you just need to be a little bit smarter, working in pairs. One go front post, one go back post, one go near and far, etc. Rather than going in the same area and making it easy for your centre half, so your keepers to block the crosses. But hopefully, as we continue to create these opportunities and moments, we can start to get on the end of them and reap the rewards.
Yeah, Hoggy, we definitely know that Ennis and Fletch can play well together, and I think it was the right partnership in looking back on it. But I said to you at some points, like they weren't the two of last season, and I don't know if this is a blessing or a curse for Fletch, but please don't take this so literally. I say this every week, but he reminds me of Harry Kane. You know, when Harry Kane drifts to like the centre midfield, or he's almost at the defensive line, just trying to link up the play. He plays so deep, but he's trying to bring everybody in. Fletcher did that so much on Saturday that I think he brought Imre in. I spoke to you about. He plays that 1-2, and then Imre's looking to pass it to a big striker because he's just running from the edge of the box. It's just obviously he hasn't got that option apart from Ennis being outmanned by three defenders, and Fletcher's nowhere to be seen. So he needs to find that right balance of when to go and when to not to go. But I also think, like against Barrow, Hoggy, that he's just trying to make us play and make us play football rather than punting it aimlessly to him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was the frustration in the first half when Peter was alluding to the fact we couldn't seem to get out. And when you are under pressure, I mentioned it in the preview that if you've got a big man up there, you can kind of aim a hopeless-ish ball into an area and think, okay, the big man's there somewhere, he's going to at least challenge for it, but it didn't materialise. And yeah, I do see what you're saying about Fletcher having the smallest of similarities to Harry Kane in terms of dropping into
only dropping in, of course.
Absolutely. But again, I think that the point was made by a couple of people in terms of Bowler. When Bowler's doubled up on out wide, our players around him have got to be smart enough to know where the space on the rest of the pitch is. So if Fletcher's coming short and bringing a centre half with him and laying it off, then there's space in behind. So either Ennis has got to do more, or Banks has got to start tucking in and playing as that second striker coming in from out wide, or Bowler if you're going down the right. And we haven't quite got that right yet at all. So as much of an improvement the second half was, there's still lots more improvement that is required and required consistently.
Yeah, Mike's just agreed with you. I think if Fletch drops deep, one of the midfield should step up into Fletcher's spot. Someone like Albie Morgan, who's a winger, a maestro winger, of course. Fletcher's so underrated. His link-up play is good for some of the forwards. Sometimes, yeah, absolutely agree. And we saw that last season as well. 2 points, Pete, on Banks and Honeyman. Not great in the first half. Honeyman much better in the second, and of course Banks was fairly consistent. Just 2 questions for you. One more of an observation, but what did for you having Banks and Bowler on each side do for Blackpool? Gave us, especially in that second half, for me, it gave us that sort of balance. And when we got it right, it looked much more fluid in attack, of course.
I think I think Banks had a good game actually. It was a bit what a shame he got that knock, but he had a good first half as well. I thought he was our only danger, but in the second half he was not in it in the game quite as much because everything was coming down the right hand side, wasn't it? My thoughts on Bowler was that I thought he had a bit of a shocker really the whole game, but I thought he was redundant because of Imre was just hogging that right hand side. He was the winger. And it sort of left. I thought Bowler looked a bit lost. I think you alluded to him being. Both of you said he was more central going into the centre. That's not what he is it? Do you need Imre and Bowler on the wing? If you had a right back that sat back, then yeah, Bowler would be fine. But I don't think he really got into the game. He didn't have that opportunity.
So. Yeah, I spoke about this, Pete, to Hoggy, and Hoggy, I'll get your opinion on it because I don't think we talk about it too much. I don't know if it's tactical and I don't know whether it's sheer luck, but I don't know if in the second half whether Bowler drifted to that centre mid. I showed you the heat map, which I haven't got to hand, but basically it showed Bowler basically being lightly running between probably the midfield, like the centre midfield and the final third, but not on the wing. But Imre's heat map was literally almost burning a hole in the paper with how much time he spent in Bowler's position. Was it a case of Keogh and Hourihane doubled up on Bowler, so in the second half he drifted in the middle to allow Imre that space because Ogbeta didn't do anything in the second half, and he dominated the first half, and they were really on the back foot with no shots, sort of really on target apart from one, which was a poor shot in the second half. So whatever we did in that second half, whether it was lucky that Bowler sort of drifted and allowed Imre the space, or whether he was told to sort of accommodate some players around him. I don't know how you felt, but Bowler might have been redundant, but without his movement, we wouldn't have so much success with Imre.
Yeah, again, whether it's luck or bad choice, I don't really know. But either way, I don't mind it because if Imre is having that much of an impact on their left hand side, pegging them back on his own, then absolutely why let Bowler effectively be in the way? I laughed and I sent you a text saying I think CJ got in the way more in the second half when he came on for Imre rather than helped him out. But that's the quality we've got in this squad now. Teams are looking at players, and you go to the other side with Banks as well. We've got players who have moments of magic and quality in them. So teams will rightly so start worrying and possibly doubling up on players. So we've got to be able to start thinking of creative and innovative ways to be able to utilise that space because, Bowler, even though he's not ideally suited to the centre of the pitch, you can still beat 2 or 3 men and slot one through on a plate for Ennis or for Taylor, for example. So Bowler will be, he will be frustrated. I still don't think he's fully fit, but I'd much rather have him there and be able to drag him back out wide if things are going wrong than him not be there at all. But I think the same on the left hand side as well. When you allude to the fact Coulson going forward is a fantastic asset, as clearly as Banks. So if it's a case of we start bringing those wide players inside a little bit, providing our right back and left back are absolutely tanking up and down the line, then that's not a problem. The problem starts like when we saw in the first half when those players, Bowler and Banks, are getting frustrated, drifting inside, but your right back and your left back are sat by the corner flag on the edge of the box, twiddling the thumbs. That's when we have problems in this formation.
Yeah, completely agree with that. A lot of comments in. Thank you for everybody for getting them in. We don't know if Banks is fit. I've asked the question to Amos and a couple of others, so hopefully we get the answer tomorrow anyway, but I highly doubt he'll start. There's obviously a player who was a mission in the squad anyway, who we'll talk about. I think Bowler needs time. He's played very little football. He will get better once match fit. Yeah. And Beast, but remember when Bowler was here the first time or second time? The criticism of him not releasing the ball and getting crowded out, I think he's doing it again. I just think he needs to find his feet again in league football. He's had a torrid time playing different positions, but his quality is there to be seen, but we just need to maybe utilise it a little bit better. But
I think he needs to be on the wing, and he just wasn't on the wing because he didn't need to be. It was,
Yeah, Peter Walls, but with quality players who are receiving poor coaching. Yeah, it's one of those, like Hoggy said, if Hamilton's coming on and he's not on the same wavelength as Imre, who's naturally going to play at such a high level, you start to get that, I'll make the run, but you won't make the pass, or I'll make the pass and you're not moving. So hopefully with time comes a bit of sort of cohesion and like we saw in that second half. But Pete, I want to talk about the subs. Probably 70-30 against Bruce in the podcast chat on Saturday. A lot of people saying, why is he taking to the 76th minute to make the changes? Obviously, Jordan Brown was one, and so was Emil Hansen. So 2 of those were enforced, 2 weren't, in CJ and Dale Taylor. We, up until the 76th minute, had absolutely a chokehold on the game. Granted, we didn't put through on goal and stuff, but we were dominating play and putting Barnsley on the back foot. For me, as the 75th minute ticked over, and I think Farouja started to get on the ball a little bit more. They made a substitution the same time as us. They started to get a bit of a grip on the game, and I actually think the substitutions came at an absolute ideal time. Obviously, Honeyman was the enforced one, but if you call it that triple change coming, I think it started to turn the game a little bit more, because as they started to grip, we then got a hold of the ball again and started to dominate the ball again.
Yeah, I think the main factor of that was the enforced substitution, Honeyman off for Brown. I think Brown was unlucky not to be playing, and I think it showed how much we needed that sort of player. It gave Morgan the freedom to sort of go forward more, and it just gave us a bit more balance in the middle of the park, I thought. The other substitutions, I mean, Hansen's, what do we think of Hansen? I'm not sure about him at all at the moment, but he did what he had to do.
The goal came after he came on, mate.
He did, and as you said, he saw it. He knew it was in before it was in, didn't he?
He knew it was in, 100%. Yeah. He's yet to impress after a YouTube reel which made him look like Cristiano Ronaldo. And Birmingham fans saying he'd be the best winger in League One, but yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, Taylor again. He had that chance, didn't he, from the pass? I thought, again, he runs well. I'm not sure which is the best 2 out of the 3 to play up front at the moment. I think Ennis sort of nails it, and it's between the other 2.
I think for now, Taylor's the right man to come on, and sometimes he might need to come on in the 60th minute to actually get involved a bit more. But I genuinely believe he's going to be a good player. Unfortunately, like anybody in football, he's got a price tag attached to him, so therefore we expect him to score 50 goals already. But I think he'll start to grow into his position, and I think for now, Fletcher is probably the right partner for Ennis, in my opinion. But different horses, different courses. We might want to play a quicker front 2 soon. You never know.
As far as CJ, just mentioned CJ. I mean, I'm a CJ fan. I know there aren't many of us, but I thought he did okay when he came. And
just a disclaimer: Pete is blind in 2 eyes.
It's official. No, I do. I think he adds something, and but I think he's ideal off the bench. To be fair, I'm not sure about starting anymore, but for sure, that last 20 minutes, and he did make the goal. He helped to make that goal. He didn't give up. He didn't sort of go down for the foul, and I didn't see that he was getting in the way of Imre so much. I saw Bowler getting in the way of him or not doing anything, but I didn't notice that, I've got to say.
I think what Hoggy can answer for himself. I think he's alluding to every time that Imre sort of picked up the ball, Hamilton was always like a yard next to him trying to receive the pass rather than bolting forward and trying to get played through from Imre as an example. Like, it's like 2 best mates standing next to each other, but he wasn't making anything happen like when Imre had the ball, sort of thing. I think, Hoggy.
Exactly that, Tom. To be fair, Pete, I'm with you. Not in the being blind in both eyes, but in the fact I do actually I don't mind CJ. No. If we are smart enough to play to his strengths, he's an effective player at League One level, that's where my frustration came in with Imre. The fact that he was bobbing on 60 yards. CJ, we know what you can do. The more you think about things, the more things go wrong. That's just a fact. Okay, so drag your man out wide, get ready for that ball in behind, beat him for pace and put it across first time. Keep it simple. Because if you're dragging that man out wide as well and stretching them, then Imre's got more room to run into as well. So don't stand next to him holding his hand. That was my frustration with CJ on Saturday more than anything. But no, I'm with you. I think he's an effective player to bring on. Yeah. And again, talking about the subs as a whole, I think there's an irony the fact that the ones that Bruce decided to make didn't actually impact the game that much, and the one he was forced to make has again kept him in a job. And I will talk about Jordan Brown shortly, but I'm delighted for the lad because he's drawn the short straw with us. covered us time and time again at right back for absolutely no apparent reason. Never uttered a bad word. Came out after the Plymouth game after another dross performance when it should have been Bruce there trying to explain what had gone on. Spoke really, really well, and has been dropped for this game in terms of from being his normal position in midfield. He's been overlooked by his manager, and he's come on and won us the game. And in my opinion, he's kept Bruce in the job. I think it's fair to say Hunneman probably will be out on Saturday. So I'm looking forward to seeing Brown next to Morgan, and I hope he puts in another performance because he's showing the characteristics that personally I like to see someone who's wearing a tangerine shirt.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just saying, they start to pick up the ball. I sometimes know my stuff around that sort of area when they gain momentum, and then it stuck with us for the rest of it. And we will talk about the subs as we did, but the late show. There's two bits I want to talk about here, Hoggy. First of all, a breakaway in the 90th minute allowed, I think it was Keel or Dunn, potentially McGoldrick in the. Let me just find out. In the second half, they had a shot. Sorry, is it? Yeah, Phillips had a shot which Casey blocked. He got down quite low. And I just want to say, we talked about Heckway and Casey, and Pete said at the start of the show, we talked about them being quite poor as a two, but I thought they showed, they didn't have too much to do, but at times they were called upon, especially with Casey's block before the goal. It was imperative. And then we'll talk about the goal. Some great work down the right. Obviously, we had a corner which came back out to CJ. He got fouled, could have stayed down. The referee could have blew the whistle. I give credit to both of those people. I don't know whether CJ's pass is meant for Casey. I don't know if it's just a hopeful hit in the box. I'm going to go with Pete's optimism and say it was a superb pass. Of course he did. A superb pass, and I put up there. CJ deserves immense credit for the goal, and someone said, "Don't you mean Casey?" I mean both of them, but without CJ's obviously getting up. Getting up and actually playing that ball, the goal doesn't happen. So every credit to him for getting up and having the intelligence to pass the ball into Casey. Hoggy, and Casey's hold up back to goal, layoff to Jordan Brown was absolute perfection, and he alluded to that in his post-match interview where he said, to be fair to Casey, it's an unbelievable layoff, and the finish is superb. He opens up his body and can find the perfect spot, of course, and the passion afterwards was one of relief and obviously just incredible elation that we finally got 3 points, and it felt nice to beat a very good team at Bloomfield Road. And the second half performance probably deserved the 3 points, despite people saying a draw would have been fair. I think we done enough to win the game.
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
did. We did win the game. So who cares what people say different? The reality is we won it. Just going back a little bit before we actually scored, I think Bruce will probably be more impressed with the style of defending you were talking about, Tom, in terms of Ekwe and Casey have had the knockers so far this season in terms of not being committed, not throwing the head in where it hurts, not throwing the body on the line. And like you say, in the 93rd minute when the game was 0-0 and we started to be under a little bit of pressure, I think Bruce will be delighted seeing his centre halves making those type of blocks. As delighted as he was probably equally as absolutely astounded to see Casey turn into prime Olivier Giroud on the edge of the box at the other end, backing in, laying off Brown to side foot it into the edge of the area. And I hope Casey's been having a word with the lads up front on Squires Gate this week, because the lads in the Armfield after the game did not believe me that it was Casey until I managed to get hold of the clip and show them. They were adamant it was Taylor, because a centre half couldn't do that apparently. It was superb. I'm with you again, Peter. I think CJ did mean the ball into feet, and Casey's hold up play was brilliant. And yeah, Brown showed he could do that for Orient quite a few times last season. And that is, as much as we come on here, we'll have a moan, we'll be negatively positive, optimistic. That is what football is all about at any level following your team. That moment of absolute ecstasy, just all sort of escapism and escaping the realities of the world for a moment, because that late in the game, right? I was trying to think of any later goals we'd scored in a regulated 90-minute match. I think the only one I could think of was Burgess maybe against Hull years ago live on Sky because of a really bad head injury.
Oh yeah, that was Folan. Caleb Folan got an injury, didn't he?
I don't think we last scored that late, certainly to win us a game as well. There's no better feeling, and that's why we do it. And yeah, like I say, if the lads can't take confidence and be buzzing from that moment all week and looking forward to Saturday, then you're in the wrong sport, lads, pack it in.
Their reaction was fantastic, though, wasn't it? When they scored, Peacock Farrell ran the whole length of the pitch. He got there quicker than the wingers. I don't know how he got there so quickly. He was like almost the first one there. But yeah, you could really see how much it meant.
It's weird though, because granted, any team is going to celebrate a 90th minute winner, but you kind of want to see that leadership and the brotherhood on the pitch as well, though, because often, and it isn't a criticism, we've scored a fantastic goal, and the quality of the goal from CJ to Casey to Brown was fantastic. And like you said, Taylor even having the knowledge to get out of the way for it to go in. But I think you want to see that leadership on the pitch. I think Tomo said it when I watched the game back, and Pete, you would have done the same today. He said literally no one's talking on the pitch, and we haven't got that leadership to bring us forward and obviously drive us forward. Nimre did it. Hoggy had noticed in the first half when he was trying to drum up a bit of atmosphere as well. But we need a talker on the pitch. I think Honeyman kind of is also shying away a little bit, despite him being captain. Casey's quite a silent leader in a sense of he did his defend and he cracks on. But I don't know who the perfect captain is or perfect talker, but I don't know anyone on that pitch who's going to maybe drive us forward. Is Jordan Brown the type of player to do it? I don't know. So I don't know if you have an opinion on who could be our leader on the pitch. I'm not sure.
I think it's strange because pre-season they were going on about how many leaders they'd brought into the side. I thought Honeyman was going to
maybe Horsfall is that guy. I don't know.
I think he might. I think I was just going to say I think Horsfall's probably the one that will do that. I mean, Evans does it to a point, although he does moan a lot as well. But and of course Hubby does it. But yeah, I'm really shocked that Honeyman hasn't sort of excelled more in that role. Really, that's what he said he would do, and I don't. I think he's been pretty quiet, to be fair.
He's had two really poor games, Honeyman, as well. Northampton and on Saturday, like I say, he only went off because he got injured. We all know
he was poor on Saturday.
Bruce wouldn't have taken him off either. We let's be honest, Bruce would not have taken him off. He'd have kept him on as his captain. So yeah, I'm with you, Tom. I think we go towards Brown because I think Iekwe still he played well, better second half. And you don't want to give Casey the Ekpeteta vibe where you put the armband on him and he potentially collapses. Let the back four, they've got a clean sheet, keep them together, let them keep trying to build that confidence and momentum. Again, your wide men, I don't know, I can't really think of many wingers who are captains. In most teams, you want someone in the middle, in and around it. So is it Morgan? Probably not. I'd be giving it Brown on Saturday, I think.
Yeah, I think I would as well.
It will be Evans who's going to start instead of Brown. Right, we'll finish on. I have to apologise to the guests because our Bradford guest has just suddenly gone off and apparently can't do it. So I apologise to everybody. That was very unexpected and the first time in 3 years that's happened. So we'll go on to talk about the team before we end the podcast, Pete. Obviously, there probably is going to be no Honeyman, and Banks probably won't be risked to start, even if he is ready to start. Who, in terms of the back four, do you think will go the same, or would you like to see something different?
No, I think he'll stick with it. I think Heckway's played himself into that position. He had a good game. I wouldn't change it at all.
I'll keep doing that. So sorry, Hoggy.
I've been called worse. Don't worry. Yeah, I agree. I think it'd be crazy if Bruce, unless he's forced, unless something's happened midweek that we don't know about on the training ground. He's asked for commitment and bodies on the line, and he did get that on Saturday in the second half. So I think again, you've got to give the players a little bit back, give them confidence. They've earned the shirt for Saturday, But the most important message Bruce has to get across to them is you've got to pick up where you left off. You can't start slow away at these, and that commitment's got to be there. We can't afford our Coulson 45 minutes of out of position, Iekwe waving at people with pom-poms in his hand in case he tried to do it all himself, because it'll be all over before he even started. But yeah, back four, going for the same. And Peacock Farrell too. Peacock Farrell deserves a bit of praise.
Yeah. Well, it's been 3 games in a row now. Well, it has been, and he's had international duties in between that, playing at ridiculously high level. Made a mistake in that game and he's come back and still, granted, not much to do, but he hasn't let it phase him in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully again.
And if you can add those passes to our armory, then you know,
Certainly.
I've got to say that I thought his passing on Saturday was absolutely dreadful. Apart from that one in the first, this is really sad. I'm going to say this in advance, but when I watched it back today, I counted his long balls in the first half, and he did. I think it was 12 out of 14 with just an out of play or to nobody.
I just think that's because that's habitual of this team. I think Hubby did it or has done it for 2.5 years. I think Evans has done it since he started every game this season. Coulson's done it, and I think that the idea is to play the ball into space and hope you get runners in behind potentially. But his distribution, generally speaking, is okay.
It was much better in the second half.
Those two passes, the pass he makes to Taylor is if Ederson makes that and Haaland goes through to score, you talk about assist of the season, and I think. I'm not saying Peacock Farrell's more intelligent than our team.
That was a proper pass, wasn't it?
Yeah, so Hoggy. But when you've got a goalkeeper that wants to play certain passes and your player's not making the runs, he's just going to keep punting it along, isn't he?
Of course he is, but I think as well we need to be mindful of we were an absolute shambles. The 10 players in front of him on Saturday in that first half were all over the place. So the option of even being able to knock that 70, 80-yard ball through to Taylor, and Ennis, the second one was too as well, it wasn't there because we talked about it, the strikers were in isolation, the wide men were tucking in, so naturally his distribution, it would have looked worse than what it was because people were not where they should have been. But yeah, I mean, there was one in the first half where he came out, read the ball really well on his weaker right foot and knocked it down the touchline. And people started to go at him. And it's like the guys read the game really well, mopped up, cleared the danger. But because we're so deep and we're all over the place, it just looks like it just looks like it's an aimless move to nowhere. But it really wasn't the case. But again, we're being positive and we're focusing on how the game finished in that second half performance. So
yes,
clean sheet, nearly an assist. Same again on Saturday, please, Bailey.
Yep.
How to solve a problem like Tom Bloxham, Hoggy. With obviously Banks likely to be out, do you switch Bloxham right and Bowler left if Bloxham is fit / not got Bruce's family at hostage because he's just been bombed from the squad? So we've got two natural wingers in Bloxham and Bowler, but we've also got Hamilton and Hansen. It's likely that you'd probably see CJ potentially start against Bradford just because it's kind of revert back to type. Something is obviously going on with Bloxham. He said everybody's fit, but for me, I'd switch Bowler left or maybe not start Bowler, but I kind of feel like it's a better balance of those two on either wing.
Yeah.
I don't know your opinion. It might be Hamilton after the start, but
yeah, look, I don't think we've got good options on the wing. It's nice to have this problem. The Bloxham one is baffling. But I don't think he'll start him. I don't think he'll start Bloxham. I actually think he'll go with Hansen. I think he'll give Hansen a try. He did okay.
I hope Hansen works if we use him like we did with Banks. When he played Barrow, you start to see him drifting into the middle but running for a wrong goal. Granted, his finishing wasn't great, but we need that. We needed a left back. I think it worked because Ashworth was being a defender, although he did have a few attacks, but we had that freedom to go and attack a little bit more rather than Coulson not being in position.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a comment from Mike in the chat about CJ covering at left back, probably tongue in cheek, but I think Bruce does actually see that as an option. I think he'd rather start Hansen out wide, and if we do take the lead, he probably feels like towards the end of the game we can hold on. We can bring CJ in as a left back.
Wasn't Wigan last season? You'd rather play him when he's got space to run in behind rather than knocking the ball 40 yards in front of him and going out for a goal kick. He won the penalty, didn't he? He drifted in from left back and he won the penalty. I don't know if he's playing on the wing at that point or he went back to left back, but he started to utilise the space a little bit more. We're going to see more green grass in front of him.
Yeah, he did. And I think that's how Bruce sees him. He likes that flexibility that he sees in CJ and what he brings to the team. I'd love to see Bloxham there, but I just don't see it. Something's clearly gone on. And who knows how that will be resolved. He should certainly at least be on the bench. Like I say, if you've got two first-team players missing from Saturday, he certainly has to be on the bench. Could argue the same for Lions. Ridiculously unlucky as well not to be in the squad on Saturday.
I didn't even mention him, but yeah. I mean, the problem is that he either comes in at left back or he doesn't play at all because he's obviously not going to dislodge Imre at this point. But
it's not. But in terms of having that option on the bench, having one player cover two positions, I think it's it's a bit risky not having him there. Well, Ashworth, he can do a job, but only at left back. He can't go right back.
You can do centre back as well.
He can do centre, yeah, he can do centre back. To be fair, but I think I'd much rather have my left back and right backs covered when we've talked about when we're playing well in our formation of 4-4-2, how important it is to have your left back and your right backs bobbing on, and that is Andy Lyons. And yeah, he's been very, very unlucky. In my opinion.
You could always put Andy Lyons at right back and push drop Bowler and push him right to right wing.
Imre up front, mate. At this point, I think he'd do a job if I'm honest. It's ridiculous.
Oh, well, don't forget we've got Casey there as the big man holding up, so he's definitely starting up top.
Yeah, just swap them around, turn it over.
We've heard of wingers switching positions. We've got centre back switching with Fletcher as well now. So, right. So the wingers we're going with Hansen and Bowler. And then the two in the middle, Pete pick themselves. I think we're finally going to see. This happens in football sometimes, doesn't it? When either red cards or injuries force two players together that you probably want to see, but under better circumstances. But it looks like Brown and Morgan will play together, and I'm excited to see what they can do because I think Brown's going to be a bit more of a defensive-minded player, and Morgan will have that freedom to bomb forward and have a shot like he did in the 85th minute, which was a great strike, but just straight at the keeper. But I'm excited to see those two play, but they're going to have a hard job against.
I'd still rather have three there, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I think Hoggy got it right. I think a 4-2-3-1 in this system works better because we can't pick a front two. No. Ennis is naturally an incredible striker, and we can have free pressing with the two in defence, and then moving forward as a 5 or 6. And I just don't think the two's going to work on Saturday. They have a ridiculous energy level. Bradford. They have high intelligent players, but they also know their jobs really well. And at home, when they've got 20,000 ahead of them, it's going to be a ridiculously hard job. And like Hoggy said, if they're not at it from the off, then we are going to be severely, hamstrung. And if we concede early, it's all going to go to pot. But I'd like to think we're going to continue where we left off, and we're going to put in a performance to be proud of. But Brown and Morgan, Hoggy, do you think that is probably the best two from? We haven't seen it yet this season, have we? So
yeah, 100%. I don't see how it can be anything else at this moment in time. If I'm honest. I think, again, going back to Bruce and his motivational talk or what he says to the players, you've got to give them the confidence to keep the ball because we've lost our guest from Bradford, but I'm led to believe they're not actually that possession based. They're quite counter attacking in terms of, like you say, that being they try and high press and try and nick it rather than have lots of the ball and do quite a bit with it. But I don't mind that. I genuinely believe the quality we've got on the ball in this team or in this squad can hurt teams. So let's try and get our head up. Take a bit of time. We saw it a bit more in the second half. We talked about Morgan, Imre, Banks knocking the little triangles together. Let's see more of that, and let's It's funny. I was thinking about this. If this was the way around, and we were top of the league and we played 4-1-4 at home, and Bradford would come in and they played 4, lost 4 away from home, as Blackpool fans, we'd be crapping ourselves because we know it's the game we lose every single time we play it. But it's the other way around now. So their fans, they might be expecting the same, they might not. But we've got to go and believe in ourselves more importantly, and try and start to imprint our own game on other teams, because standing off away from home against these and the form that they're in, like I say, with a full house, it doesn't feel like it's going to end well. So yeah, that will and that drive has to come from certainly the two in the middle, and Brown and Morgan. I'm confident I'd back them both. I think they'll be all over the middle of that park, picking up the first and certainly challenging for every first ball and picking up the majority of the second ones.
And Hogger, stay with you. Who's your front two? Fletch and Ennis, or Taylor and Fletch, or Taylor and Ennis?
And Ennis and Taylor for me. If it isn't broke, don't fix it. I had a go at Bruce at the start of the season when things weren't right, and he let people keep the shirt for underperforming. We questioned.
So Ennis and Taylor, Ennis and Fletch. Sorry,
Ennis and Fletcher.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Ennis and Fletch for me. Sorry. They're the two that started. Give them another go. We won the game on Saturday. If it's not broke, don't fix it. They probably have earned the shirt. But again, Bruce has got to be brave. If it's going wrong, you've got to change it. You can't just wait for injuries to occur or sit and watch it fall apart in front of your eyes. Be positive, be proactive. We've got the options to do it. But yeah, like Peter said before, Ennis, you're going to get, however long you leave him on the pitch for, he's going to run himself into the ground. I just hope they do start to build more of a connection and a partnership that they had towards the end of last season that hasn't really felt like it's been here yet this season, if we're quite honest. I don't know Ennis obviously was suspended for 3 games, but yeah, I'll be starting those two up front on Saturday, Ennis and Fletcher for me.
I don't care who actually out of the Ennis has got to start, but I'm quite happy for either of the other two to partner Ennis. To be honest with you, I think that's one area where we're sort of okay if they can get the ball to them.
I was going to ask both of you gents. I don't want anyone to lose their job, but after Northampton, I think Big Dog Walker said 80% of the fans wanted Bruce has gone. There it is. Still in the majority. Obviously, Hoggy, you seem to think if it was a 0-0, Bruce was gone. I don't believe after a 0-0 he would have gone because I think Sadler was happy to do that. Potentially, I think if we lost, he was gone. I think that was almost mind made up. But Peter, I'll ask you first. We've got 2 of the hardest games we could have wished for after, Barnsley, Bradford and Luton, after Northampton were 3 games we probably didn't want. And it'd be typical of Blackpool to win all 3 of them. But if Bruce doesn't pick up potentially a win in the next 2, do you see him gone, or do you think 2 draws is enough? Or do you think it's a question of time until he's not our manager anymore and this is like a play that's waiting to be sort of played out? Or do you think we will turn it around? But
I think we're going to win on Saturday. But it's a difficult question now. I think it would have been a goner if we'd lost on Saturday, but I'm not sure it'd be a goner if we lose on this Saturday. If that makes sense. I think he's going to be there for longer than we think. I think he's going to be there longer than we think. Even if we, only get 1 or 2 points from the next 2 games, I just can't see Sadler pulling the trigger on him. I just can't see it. 2
bad losses, Hoggy, is he gone? I think.
If it's 2 bad losses, is he gone?
Oh, 2 losses, yeah.
100%. Absolutely. No doubt about it. Again, and the reason why I think it'd have gone on Saturday if we'd have drawn 0-0, we'd been bottom of the table. We'd have been bottom of the table if we'd have drawn 0-0. And like I say, yes, that moment was absolutely fantastic. And as football fans, that's what it's about. We'd have been bottom of the league. That kick of the ball from Jordan Brown simply moved us up 2 places in the table. Still in the relegation zone. Let's not forget that. Yes, it was
someone
better.
said this, and I don't really. Psychologically, I was at 5 o'clock. I was just beaming because the 3 points were there, and position for me wouldn't have mattered because the win was more important than position, right? If we drew and everyone else around us lost and we weren't bottom, it would have felt worse for me. We needed that win, in my opinion. And I said matters not. that we're in the relegation zone. If we go to Bradford and we do it again and again and again, and we've got to start building momentum, of the season will be done, Hoggy, because I think enough for Bradford. If it's a 4-5-0 loss, I think we just have to change it because he's not going to stick with him for another 6 months. So what's the point of it? We're going to go around in circles. And whilst I don't want to chop and change the manager all the time, the next appointment in Blackpool's and Sadler's tenure, if he's here for a longer time, is probably his biggest. And I said that after Bruce, and I thought it was going to work this season, but evidently it hasn't
yet.
I had a wry smile, Peter, when you were saying I don't think he goes if we lose on Saturday. I think if we get hammered, he could do, because I appreciate
it's the nature of the loss, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's
sure.
the start of the season, and I appreciate Bradford done very, very well, and with all respect to them, they're on an absolute roll and fair play. There's not a Blackpool fan who'd be being arrogant at the start of the season. We should be finishing the season ahead of Bradford, and at no point should they be, 10, 12 points ahead of us already, or something like that, more. I don't even know. So yes, if we go to Bradford and get Howard on Saturday, I think he's gone. The only thing that I might save him, as daft as it is the fact that we've got a game so soon. The Luton at home game, but then flip it on its head. Football fans, we're a fickle bunch, aren't we? If we beat Bradford on Saturday, and I think we will, I'm with you, Peter, on that too. How are you not buzzing going into the home game against Luton, having beaten top of the league away from home? You've won 3 games back to back, 2 in the league and 1 in the cup. Suddenly, I'd fancy us to beat Luton on a Tuesday night at Bloomfield Road, having turned top of the table over. Jerry coming back, there'll be a bit of spice in that as well. Then you've got 9 out of 9. And everyone's going, okay, let's quieten down a little bit about Bruce, and maybe the team have. But it's down to the players and the manager.
I think it's almost 50-50. I find it really hard not to blame Bruce, because I think his tactics and his player picks have been appalling. And I don't think, like Kurt said, if he went into that dressing room at Northampton, he could have picked a better team and given them a more impactful message. And then you've got the other side of it where the players just look like they want him sacked, and I think it's disgusting personally, and they should have some pride to play for this football club or any football club come to that. So I think it's almost 50-50, and I think that there's too many Steve's. Someone put in the chat earlier, too many Steve's spoil the broth, and I think Steve Agnew adds absolutely nothing. Steve Banks, we've had issues with goalkeeping for many years now, and I think Bruce is being clouded by three men that don't really know too much. Maybe Dobbs is going to be a key part of the dressing room, but since Kira's left, we've ultimately been worse, and Clements has clearly added nothing to it. So I think Bruce either needs to sack 3 of his staff, or they all go and we have something refreshing, because with the players we've got, it's clearly an exciting group of players, Pete. And like Hoggy said, if it's not probably 3 wins out of the next 5, then for me it's got to go. I love Bruce to pieces, but we've got to have something to scream about this season. Otherwise, we've wasted a lot of money and a lot of time.
Yeah, and the fact he's going anyway at the end of the season, but there's a whole podcast there, isn't there, about who should be the next manager. We've probably all got our thoughts on that.
Yeah, your point earlier, Tom, that you alluded to is key. The start of the season we've had of Bruce putting square pegs in round holes, starting one up front, putting midfielders at right, that can't be defended. And Bruce, if that's put us where we are in the table, it's that simple, and that's on him. But trying to be positive here, if he starts playing 4-4-2 like he did on Saturday, putting the right people in their natural positions, and even if we grind out a few results, it's not pretty. You then can't knock him, because 4-4-2, again, like we said before with CJ, if you play to players' strengths, as basic as it might be, it's League One. It's not Premier League. It's not Champions League. It's pretty basic football most weeks that win your games, and doing the basics very, very well. That's what 4-4-2 is. And if you do that very well, like Bruce keeps harping on about, then it will start to get better. But the power's in his hands. He's the one who picks the players. He's the one who motivates them. And like you said, it's appeared at times players haven't wanted to play for him in that formation. But then you leave the ground on Saturday, and they've put in a good show in second half. They've won the game, and if we do it again on Saturday, then we're all going to be sat here buzzing, counting down to Tuesday night.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a good time to end the pod. We'll probably have a different discussion each week of whether he's going to be our manager or not, and when it actually comes, we won't know who to replace him. But Tony's put, and I think it's right. As much as I probably wouldn't mind Evo would bring a lot of passion and desire to the football club, and he's got youth on his side, and I think he generally would, maybe bring in Gilks, and it might feel like there's too much connection to the club, Hoggy, but I would be willing to probably accept that kind of setup. If I'm honest, I think it would bring a lot into the team. A lot of people don't want anyone to do with the club like Tony said. We would want someone with no connection to BFC, with his own ideas, with his own coaching staff, a clean slate. I think that's fair. I don't know how you feel.
It'll be Critchley anyway.
Look, nostalgia of football fans. I'd invite the whole 2010, 2011.
To be honest with you, I would just
they wanted it any time. They did the freedom.
I think for his sheer attack and football and nothing else. As much as we wouldn't want Ollie back, but we.
I would.
Says who? Says who?
Well, not me. I said maybe a lot of people. I mean, his ruthlessness in attack and wanting to win for the badge is something that is refreshing, and I don't think there's many managers like that, because they all focus themselves on XG and not wanting to lose the game. And he's gone to Swindon and they're playing football like he used to at Blackpool. They're passing the ball about and scoring 4 and 5.
They love him, don't they?
They concede them 3 and 4, but they're entertaining as hell. And there is still no managers like him, on this planet that will give you the entertainment and desire on the pitch that he gave us. So I would like, potentially, like Tony said, someone that is going to bring that to the team, and maybe a complete unknown. I don't know, but we need something. We need something to be happy about. Like I can accept losing games, but I don't want to do it whilst dribbling with boredom. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, Peter's right. To be fair, it probably is a whole podcast if and when it comes to looking for him a new manager. But there's probably a bit of leverage in Sadler, having that discussion. Because let's not forget, when Bruce was brought in, it was part of a project, and Dobby and Keogh were there to move in after 2 years, and we are moving towards the end of that 2-year tenure for Bruce. And I was thinking when Everett was mentioned, then I think something similar happened to Everett in terms of, they were struggling a little bit at Bolton, had a big backroom staff, and I think there was a discussion that went on between him and the chairwoman of it's either you or you start rejigging your backroom staff, and we see some continuity coming in. I think he did get rid of a few of his backroom staff, and results did improve. There's nothing to stop Sadler. I'm a big Dobby fan, and I'd happily see him step forward. He's done great things with the opportunities
I
he's
think
given
it
in the
was
development
sorry
team.
to interrupt you, but it's Luton away when Dobby took over and they were flying, and we absolutely tore them a new one in that first half. We were 1-0 up, but we made a couple of mistakes at the back to lose the game. But I know we had some amazing players like Rodgers and stuff, but just the principle of what he was playing was exactly there to be seen, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I know, and it might be a case that Sadler has a little bit of reflection and looks back at that and thinks, well, hang on, what happens at the end of this season, whether it's good or bad with Bruce and where we finish? What is coming next? So does he say, look to Bruce, you get rid of your pals and your yes men and you start utilising Dobby more because he's the future? It's his club at the end of the day. Sadler could put Dobby in charge tomorrow if he wanted to. It's completely up to him. So there's options there. Like you say, there's a lot of too many Steve spoil the broth. Like I said before, I do like that. But we don't have to completely, overhaul, because Bruce does, as he's alluded to, bringing players in. He has his positives, he has his appeal and his attractiveness to outsiders at the club. But maybe we slowly start to manoeuvre him back as we bring Dobby forward, maybe in that transition. It's not a complete overhaul because the nucleus of the squad, we'll all agree, is there and should certainly be challenging for the top 6.
Yeah, agreed. And there's nowhere near. I think Orient were similar position to us, and they got to the playoff finals. There's loads of time. There's loads of points to play for. 9-10 games, isn't it? So 36 games to go and over 100 points. So plenty of points to be won. We just need to start building a bit of momentum. But for now, Pete, thank you for joining us on your first ever podcast. It's been a joy.
Enjoyed it.
I don't know if you're a bad luck, but I've never had a guest pull out during a podcast, even though he agreed to be on. So I'm so sorry, gents, that you won't get to hear all about Bradford. And I'll try and get a bit of insight on them from one of their fans maybe before the game. But thank you for joining, Pete, and hopefully you can come back again.
2 goals for CJ on Saturday, 2-0.
Jesus Christ. I love him, but I don't love him. I'd love him to come on when we're 2-0 up. But I don't think he'll get 2 goals. If he does, then, we can retire the pod and we can all be happy for the rest of our lives. I don't think he scored 2 goals since maybe Crewe in the Cup when Bruce got appointed, or Swindon at home on his debut, one of the two. Other than that, it's a bit of trivia for the chat. Go away and let us know in the comments. Hoggy, thank you once again, mate. 2 weeks in a row on for a hat trick if we beat Bradford. If not, I'll speak to you when we win a game.
give me a call when Dobby's appointed next time, please. That'd be great.
Yeah, right, gents. Thank you so much, and thanks for joining in the comments. Speak to you all soon.